Amidst the tension and chaos that enveloped the castle, Princess Luana found solace in the kitchen, indulging in the preparation of her favorite dish, sujebi. Unbeknownst to her, soldiers were charging up the stairs, their faces etched with determination. The door swung open, and with an authoritative voice, they demanded to know the whereabouts of the princess. After thinking the situation, Luana began to eat her sujebi. The knight in the red uniform asks if she is the sixth princess. That's right, Luana admits that she is the sixth princess. Luana, not so elegant appearance and regal attire, looked not like a princess. The knight in command ordered the soldiers to seize Luana and forcefully escort her to the square. As they dragged her away, Luana couldn't help but think about the sujebi she was leaving behind, desperately requesting them to allow her to finish her meal. Upon arriving at the square, Luana was greeted by a multitude of individuals already kneeling before someone. Among them was her father, the king of this kingdom, her sisters, and many servants. Luana made her way through the crowd, finding a spot in the middle of her kneeling sisters. Ingrid, the royal first princess, warned Luana that the seat she had taken was for the royal family, cautioning her about the potential consequences of her actions. Innocently, Luana replied that she was also a member of the royal family. A lady sitting beside Luana, the second princess, seized the opportunity to mock her, mentioning rumors of a kid living in the abandoned palace. The crowd murmured, expressing surprise that she was still alive and sympathizing with her plight. However, Luana remained unfazed by their comments, convinced that they were all destined for execution. She believed herself to be a reincarnation with knowledge of the kingdom's future, gained from reading a famous romance fantasy novel in her previous life. In the novel, Ingrid, the elegant and beautiful lead female, refused the emperor's invitation to the imperial palace. Then the emperor ordered the duke to seize that kingdom, and bring Princess Ingrid to him. Luana was the insignificant princess who had no role in the story, but had been reincarnated into this life. Luana knew she could not escape her fate. So she would enjoy this life and eat tasty food. If you have a good meal before you die, it won't be so scary. In the midst of her thoughts, a figure donning a black cape and brandishing a sword entered the scene. This person was introduced as the general of the conquering army, Duke Legion. The entire crowd kneeled before him. As they kneeled, Luana couldn't help but comment on the color of the Legion's uniform, likening it to something delicious. While the second princess was shaking with fear, Luana tried to remember Legion's nickname. She remembered, he was called the Emperor's dog, probably not a very pleasant nickname for him. Ingrid shouted at the Duke Legion, demanding to know what fate awaited the royal family of the ruined kingdom. Legion coldly responded, questioning what she expected him to do. The king pleaded for his life, offering anything in return. Luana laughed, thinking that there was nothing left to give from the ruined kingdom. To her surprise, Legion turned his attention to her. He was clearly not happy with her behavior. Ingrid, coming to Luana's defense, pleaded with the Duke Legion, offering herself in exchange for Luana. The Duke's interest was piqued by Ingrid's proposition, mirroring the narrative of novel. This is the scene where the Duke falls in love with Princess Ingrid. A heartwarming love story begins for the second novel's male character. Luana is so excited. Legion noticed Luana's gesture. He inquired about its meaning. She responded that it symbolized her belief that he was the best. Intrigued, the Duke insisted that Luana show him her hands. Luana resisted, making lame excuses such as an itchiness. Frustrated by her evasion, the Duke Legion ordered the guards to search her. They grabbed Luana and began the search, but she laughed it off, seemingly unaffected by the situation. Amidst the search, one of the guards approached Duke Legion, triumphantly revealing a beef cheese jerky. He confronted Luana, questioning its nature, whether it was a weapon or some kind of poison. While Luana is trying to convince the guards that it's not poison, and not a weapon. Legion draws his sword, saying that if she tells him the truth, she will die quickly and painlessly. Luana believes her fate is sealed, so why not end it quickly? In an innocent and anxious voice, she confessed that it was simply a jerky. Duke Legion confused, he asked her to speak clearly. Luana shouted, "It's a cheese jerky." Everyone is in shock, including the royal family, became perplexed by the discovery of a cheese jerky in such a situation. Luana felt a mix of embarrassment and fear, sensing the severity of the consequences. The Duke Legion thought he had misheard, but his subordinates confirmed that Luana indeed said cheese jerky. On the sly, Luana hides behind her sister's back, admitting that she cooked it herself. Ingrid stands up for her sister, saying that maybe Luana isn't very smart, but she's a good kid. Luana doesn't understand what the problem is, no one has forbidden her to eat. The brave princess approached the Duke offering him a taste as well. The Duke accepted the jerky, but his companions expressed concern, cautioning him against consuming it due to potential poison. Ignoring their warnings, the Duke Legion proceeded to eat the jerky. Meanwhile, Princess Luana found herself behind the prison door, consumed by anxiety regarding the cheese jerky she had given to Duke Legion. As the night locked up her cell, she couldn't help but inquire about the jerky's fate. The guard, intrigued by her curiosity, answered that the jerky had been destroyed under Duke Legion's orders. Luana's mind raced with thoughts. She contemplated her impending fate, the end of her role as Luana in the novel once the kingdom was occupied. She had resigned herself to death, yet she never expected to be caught because of cheese jerky. With a sense of hopelessness, she acknowledged the possibility of remaining locked up in the abandoned palace until her demise. Suddenly, the Duke Legion burst into the prison, addressing Luana with the words, "Hey, witch!" How could he dare to call such a pretty girl a witch? Duke Legion continued, accusing her of pretending. If she is not a witch, why did he feel the taste of that food? He revealed a family curse, that left him disgusted by the taste of any food. However, he could feel the taste of the beef jerky Luana had made. The princess, not sure where he was going with this, asked if that meant he liked her cooking. The Duke agrees that her food was edible. He opened a box containing torture tools, grabbing one as he explained, he had lost his sense of taste due to the witch's curse. The fact that he could taste the beef jerky she made, led him to believe that she was a witch. Luana was shocked and confused by Duke Legion's misunderstanding, as he accused her of being a witch. In her mind, she drew a parallel to a story she had read in a novel. Duke Legion's ancestor had been cursed by a witch, causing him to lose his sense of taste, perceiving all food as trash. Although the witch had disappeared, Duke Legion continued his hunt for witches, harboring an immeasurable hatred towards them. Luana is infuriated by the fact that in addition to being a princess of a ruined kingdom, she is now also a witch. Furious, Luana responded to the Duke, vehemently denying being a witch. Duke Legion dismissed her denial, stating that she would soon confess the truth. Overwhelmed, Luana leaned against the prison wall, realizing that her plan of indulging in delicious food, and meeting her demise had been thwarted. The Duke approached with the tool he had taken from the torture kit, preparing to use it on Luana. Desperate, Luana dropped to her knees and confessed that she is a witch. Duke Legion was taken aback by her confession. Luana explained that she was only an apprentice witch and lacked the ability to cast or break curses. She showed him a mark on her arm, claiming it to be a witch's mark. In reality, it was a burn mark from a cooking accident. Duke Legion totally confused. He asked if she used magic to make the beef jerky. Luana has to lie that she used magic. But the truth is, she aged the beef in a clean environment, with the clear air of the kingdom. With confidence, she revealed that she had added a secret ingredient. Duke Legion, worn out by the situation, questioned if she had added bugs. Luana shouts that she didn't add any bugs, everything she said is true. She innocently asks him not to torture her, after all, she has told him everything. Duke Legion's thoughts shifted as he recalled the delicious taste of the beef jerky, made by the princess. That beef jerky tasted delicious. Once again threatening the witch with a scary tool. The Duke decided he would not torture her. Actually, the Duke came here for more than that. Back at the castle, Luana found herself in kitchen bathed in sunlight, an exquisite sight she thought she would never see again. A guard appointed by the Duke approached her, asking, When are you going to start cooking? In the kitchen, surrounded by fresh vegetables and fruits, Luana stammered, I'm going to start now. Luana's life literally depends on this meal. Then the Duke of Legion ordered the sunrise to prepare something for him. If he likes her meal, he will keep her alive. Even in such an unpleasant situation, Luana felt elated. She marveled at the finest ingredients she had never encountered during her time in the abandoned palace. With newfound confidence, she thought to herself, even if it's the Last Supper, she'll make him a meal he'll never forget. Fresh beef and Napa cabbage. The freshness in the castle's kitchen was unlike anything Luana had experienced in her abandoned palace. She began by brewing the broth using anchovies, mushrooms, and green onions. Although experts might have added secret ingredients, Luana was not a professional cook in her previous life. She had always enjoyed eating alone and had her own way of doing things. With a serious expression, the girl carefully layered the Napa cabbage and sliced beef in a pot while the broth boiled. Beef. The layers of cabbage and meat brought a sense of satisfaction. In the middle of the pot, she placed sliced mushrooms and poured hot broth over them, causing the cabbage to turn translucent and the meat to take on a brownish-gray hue. The dish looked incredibly appetizing. It's done, Luana exclaimed, placing the pot on a tray with a satisfied smile. She covered it with a large metal lid and pushed the tray herself, ensuring it stayed warm. Dragging the tray with a half-dead expression, Luana made her way to the Duke's room. Luana enters the Duke's room with a knock. The princess was nervous and kept reminding herself not to be nervous. The dish is here, Luana exclaimed as she walked over to Duke's table. Since it was an office, there was no table, so Luana laid the food on top of the desk. There was only one plate and enough sauce for one person beside the pot. The Duke stared at the pot, that the princess had placed on the desk. When she opened the lid, hot steam rose, revealing the milfouille nabe, beautifully blooming like a flower. What kind of food is this? The Duke inquired. Luana confidently replied that's her creative dish. Although she was an abandoned princess, this creation held special meaning for her. It reminded her of her previous life when she believed she couldn't achieve such things. The Duke noted that she looked confident in herself. Luana had put her life at stake to prepare this dish, but in the eyes of others, she was nothing more than a crazy princess. Nevertheless, Luana remained confident. It was a combination of meat, cabbage, and broth, it couldn't be bad. The Duke is surprised that she has decided to improvise, when her life is at stake. Luana doesn't understand what he might not like, if he hasn't even tasted it. If he tries it, he's sure to like it. But the Duke asks that she try the dishes first. Does he really think that she would dare poison him? But there are no options, so Luana tastes her dish. The hot broth dripped from the cabbage stuffed with meat. When she dipped it in the peanut sauce she had prepared, it complemented the broth wonderfully. The first bite was too hot, causing her to jump, but as it cooled in her mouth, Luana chewed again. The taste of the sweet cabbage, the delicious broth, and the perfectly cooked high-quality beef filled her mouth. The Duke asks what she has in her hands. That's right, people in this world don't know anything about chopsticks. The princess explains to the Duke that it is a wooden cutlery. Luana begins to cry when she remembers how hard she and Nanny worked to make it. Legion thinks there is no poison in her dish, but still, he will wait a while in case the poison is slow acting. Luana retorted, if it's cold, it'll be tasteless. Any food tastes best when it's freshly made. The Duke, using his knife and fork, took some food and put it in his mouth. Luana waited to see what happened. Maybe his clothes will fly off, like in anime Shokugeki no Soma. Despite finding the taste unfamiliar, Duke didn't want to give up on eating because it was delicious. He astonished by the delicious taste of the dish prepared by Luana. After a little thought, the Duke says that the dish was not bad. Luana is sure that he liked her meal. She contemplated guiding him on how to enhance the flavors, but her thoughts were interrupted, as the Duke abruptly stood up and addressed her with a deep voice. The Duke was promised something by the king, emphasizing that if there was anything he desired after destroying the kingdom, he could have it. Initially, the Duke claimed he didn't want anything from a small kingdom, leaving Luana confused. However, his words quickly shifted, and he stated that now he did want something, while locking eyes with Luana. Her confusion deepened, as she questioned what the Duke was referring to. In a confused and scared manner, Luana asked the Duke about her fate, if he were to act as he pleased. He replied with a chilling statement, expressing his intent to lock her up until the administrative work in the kingdom was finished, after which, he would take her back to the Empire. Luana's mind raced with thoughts. She realized, she would have to continue risking her life and preparing his meals. In the midst of her contemplation, a thought crossed her mind: wouldn't it be better if he chose someone, with blonde hair and blue eyes? Or a seductive-looking princess with red hair? But the Duke was unbowed. Attempting to voice her opposition, Luana raised her hand, but the Duke forcefully questioned her, asking if she was opposing his decision. Before she could respond, the Duke ordered his guards to take her away, feed her, and lock her up. With a throbbing heart, Luana found herself back in the kitchen, cutting vegetables and using a frying pan to make eggs. Despite her situation, she was determined to fill her stomach first before considering her next steps. Sitting on a chair, Luana continued her culinary preparations while a guard monitored her. When questioned about her actions, she explained that she was making her food delicious. However, the guard, fueled by suspicion, believed she was practicing witchcraft. Luana extended an offer to the guard, asking if he wanted to try making food with her. He hesitated initially but eventually joined her, attempting to roll a dough. "This knight is so cute when he cooks." Unsatisfied with his results, Luana demonstrated the proper technique, guiding him to improve. Encouraged by Luana's guidance, the guard knight gained newfound appreciation for the culinary process. Luana prepared a bowl full of rolled rice doughs with vegetables, and urged the guard knight to try it. The knight sensed someone's evil presence. But seeing how the princess was nibbling on rice balls, he decided to give it a try too. He tasted the dish and was amazed by its deliciousness. Luana rewarded him with a pouch full of the meal. She asked him to share it with the other knights. When the knight asked why she cooked so much, Luana answered that she also cooked food for her nanny. The knight thinks it makes no sense. But to avoid upsetting Luana, he decided not to talk about the other prisoner's fate. The guard escorted Luana to a big black gate, leading her to ponder her circumstances. Recognizing the division between the royal family and the servants, Luana questioned how she could fit in among the princesses. She anticipated being treated as a maid, given her past experiences in the abandoned palace. Perhaps the good knight will not leave her in trouble. But the knight says it is the Duke's order. If she could survive after meeting with a mad Duke, then she can cope with the sisters. Luana opened the door, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. After Lugard locked up Princess Luana, he headed to his room to rest. Luana's fears of evil and arrogant princesses were not justified. They chased Luana's rice balls like rabid dogs. Someone turned to Lugard. It was Henry, another knight and friend of Lugard. Their duties were over for the day, and they could talk. During their conversation, Henry mentioned that he is feeling hungry. Then Lugard offers Henry some rice ball, that Luana gave him earlier to feed other knights. These rice balls are packed in a cute smiley face rice bag. Henry, curious about his unconventional choice of food, questioned him. Lugard assured him that there was nothing wrong with it. Despite Henry's initial worries, Lugard shared his rice ball with him. While the knights were chatting, Legion suddenly appeared. The Duke, tall and imposing figure, turned to them, expressing interest in the food. The knights stood at attention along the line, paying their respects to the general. Legion directed his question to Lugard, inquiring about the source of the food. Lugard honestly confessed that the princess had given it to him. Legion's gaze turned cold as he peered into the darkness, his mind preoccupied with the abandoned princess. Meanwhile, Luana found herself curled up on the hard stone floor, deep in contemplation of her situation, alongside the other princesses. All the rice balls were taken away from her, and that couldn't help but make Luana sad. Ingrid, perceptive to her discomfort, called out to her, inviting her to join her on the bed. Luana's heart fluttered with excitement at the prospect. Ingrid, as the first princess, continued to behave nobly even while in captivity. As Luana settled beside Ingrid, she discreetly retrieved the last remaining rice ball she had saved. She announced her plan to save it for the morning. Ingrid's gaze fixed upon the rice bowl. Luana, sensing her longing, instinctively moved it away from her. Ingrid reassured her, she didn't actually crave the rice bowl. She insisted that Luana should eat it instead. Luana hesitated for a moment, unsure of Ingrid's true desire. While the other princesses struggled for food, Ingrid never moved from the bed. Of course Ingrid was hungry. Ultimately Luana decided to offer the rice ball to her anyway. Ingrid refuses, saying she doesn't want to eat her last rice bowl. But Luana assures her that it's okay, she ate before coming here. With a gentle smile, Ingrid accepted the rice ball from Luana, and graciously split it in half, returning one portion back to Luana. Luana was so touched by her actions. Her sister is beautiful not only in appearance, but also in heart. Now Luana understands why the Duke and the Emperor fell in love with her. However, their moment of respite was interrupted by the forceful opening of the door. Startled, Luana and the other princesses turned their attention to the Duke standing at the entrance. Ingrid, unafraid to speak up, questioned his disrespectful entry. But the Duke remained silent, his gaze sweeping across the room, catching the attention of the princesses. Luana, observing the scene, felt a foreboding presence looming over her. The Duke tells Luana to follow him. Luana finds this strange, after all, he himself ordered her to come here. As he called her to follow him, Ingrid intervened, attempting to protect her sister. Luana was touched by Ingrid's actions, grateful for her kindness. However, the Duke's attention shifted to Ingrid, and Luana knew that trouble was imminent. The Duke summoned a guardian, and ordered him to put the princess in the dungeon. The guardian grabbed Luana by the arm. The Duke meant the other one. The guard let go of Luana's hand. Now the guard grabbed the right princess. As Ingrid was taken away, the other princesses remained silent, understanding the gravity of the situation. Once Ingrid was gone, the Duke gestured for Luana to lead the way. Confused about their destination, Luana complied, and walked down the dark hallway toward the kitchen. Coming into the kitchen, Luana asks if the Duke wants her to cook now. The Duke instructed her to make the rice balls she had given to his subordinate earlier. Luana finds the Duke's behavior so selfish. He locks her sister in a dungeon, and makes her cook for him at night. She asks if he will make her cook at this late hour. Legion sensed her unwillingness to cook for him. Luana says it's fine, she's an expert at cooking at night. Legion says, she is not supposed to cook for the knights or her sisters. The Duke isn't in the habit of sharing what belongs to him with anyone else. Luana says it's fine, except that her vegetables are starting to burn. After the Duke clarifies the situation, he returns to his seat. Luana doesn't understand why he came so close to her. She cooked the rice, chopped the vegetables, and shaped the rice balls while feeling the intense gaze of the Duke on her. Once the rice balls were ready, Luana served them to the Duke. He remarked that rice balls are typically eaten with hands, to which Luana responded playfully, aware of the absurdity of the situation. The Duke picked up a rice ball and devoured it, surprising Luana with his voracious appetite. She couldn't help but wonder how he maintained his muscles, considering his enormous consumption of food. While the Duke enjoyed the rice balls, Luana continued to shape more, feeling exhausted from the demanding task. The Duke finished every rice ball on the plate, leaving Luana both tired and amazed at his capacity to eat. However, she couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something odd about the Duke's behavior. The Duke says her work is done for today. Luana has been waiting for this moment for a long time. Now she can go back to her room. But Legion says that's not the case, she'll go to the room where he's staying. Luana is shocked. The Duke doesn't understand why she is standing there. He told her to go to his room. Luana was sure he was just kidding. But wait, why would she go to his room? Legion doesn't think she can escape. But still, he wants to keep an eye on her personally. They walked together through the dark hallway, and Luana couldn't help but notice the Duke's impressive posture from behind. Luana thinks it's not so bad. In the Duke's chambers there must be a separate room for her. Inside the room, the Duke removed his coat, revealing his thin physique. If Luana had known it would turn out this way, she would have preferred to serve the princesses all night. When Legion took off his shirt, Luana squealed in surprise. She promises not to look at him again. As the Duke continued to change, Luana noticed how skinny he was. While he had his clothes on, it wasn't as noticeable. Legion noticed her stare. Luana realized that apparently the Duke had eaten almost nothing before he met her. So because of the curse, he could only enjoy the food she cooked. Legion asks what she is thinking. He has already changed, so that she can turn around. The Duke positioned himself on the bed, his eyes scanning the room with unwavering intensity. Now Luana doesn't find him so scary. Instead of lying down, he leaned against the pillow, tightly hugging his scabbard. His posture conveyed his readiness to draw his sword at any moment, a testament to his ruthless nature. The girl asks him if he really can't taste food. Legion is surprised by the fact that the witch asks him about the curse. But a little later he adds that it's true. All the food he eats looks like sand, and soups remind him of sewers. Luana comforts him, by saying that he can eat the food she has prepared. Now she understands why he eats so many rice balls. Legion asks why she needs to know about his curse. Perhaps she wants to curse him again. Luana explains that she is curious. She is already in a hurry to sleep. The air between them grew tense as silence settled in the room. Meanwhile, Luana, lost in her thoughts, pondered ways to help the Duke gain weight. She decided that tomorrow she would cook him lots of delicious food. Luana recognized the importance of taking care of one's body, even for someone as skilled as the Duke. While lying on the sofa, Luana's thoughts drifted, and she pondered why the Duke hadn't killed her. She questioned the motives behind his treatment towards her. Is it possible he has other plans for her? These questions swirled in her mind, but the answers remained elusive. Despite her determination to stay awake, fatigue got the better of Luana. Gradually, she succumbed to the embrace of sleep, her mind slipping into the realm of dreams. In her slumber, Luana found herself transported to a vivid memory of her nanny, a kind and gentle soul, who had nurtured her during her childhood. Overwhelmed by the events that had unfolded, she poured her heart out to the image of her nanny, recounting every detail of her encounter with the Duke. Tears streamed down Luana's cheeks as she embraced the apparition of her nanny in her dream. She yearned for comfort and reassurance amidst the chaos that had consumed her life. But as quickly as the dream had engulfed her, reality shattered its grasp. Her eyes fluttered open, and to her surprise, she found herself gripping the Duke's chest. Her fingers tightly wound around his shirt. In that brief moment of confusion, Luana's drowsy mind jolted awake. She hastily released her grip and looked up at the Duke, his piercing gaze fixed upon her. The Duke simply uttered a single word. Witch. Luana begged him not to resort to extreme measures and take her life for her mistake. The Duke, rubbing his chin, recounted the events of the previous night, revealing that Luana had calmly entered his bed, and stayed there throughout the night. Luana, shocked and appalled by her own behavior, questioned why he hadn't kicked her out of his bed. The Duke, staring intensely at her, claimed that as a knight, he couldn't bring himself to harm a lady. Luana couldn't believe his response, knowing the Duke's reputation for brutality and cruelty. Filled with fear, she pondered how she could possibly survive in the presence of such a frightening individual. She implored him for guidance, but the Duke suggested that she should find a solution herself. Determined to find a way out of this predicament, Luana volunteered to think of a plan. However, the Duke abruptly shifted the topic to his hunger, prompting her to rush to the kitchen. Luana ran to the kitchen. Luana doesn't understand why her bad habits have manifested themselves now. I'm the only one who wonders where she gets her habits from. Anyway, Luana is trying to come to her senses. If she cooks slowly, Johnny will come for her. She tore bread into small pieces and soaked them in milk. She minced onions, parsley, ground beef, pork, and cheese, and seasoned the mixture with tomato sauce, salt, garlic and pepper. Mixing the ingredients together, she shaped the meat with a mold and baked it in the oven, until it was cooked to perfection. In the meantime, she also made a potato salad, mashing the potatoes and adding chopped boiled eggs, vegetables, mayonnaise, and a sprinkle of pepper. As she cooked, the stress began to dissipate. The act of using expensive spices, which she wouldn't normally have access to, brought her a sense of relief. Wanting to stall for time before delivering the tray to the Duke, she came up with an idea: she would make soup. As she reached for onions and butter, the kitchen door suddenly swung open. Standing in the doorway was the knight, who had guarded the Duke's door the previous day. Luana reflected on the fact that she hadn't seen Lugard in a while. The knight informed her, the Duke had started sharpening his sword. Realizing that making soup was unnecessary, Luana quickly changed her story, claiming that she had finished cooking. No need to keep a hungry Duke waiting. When Luana entered the room, Legion was already dressed and stared at her. For a moment, his red eyes seemed to soften, but Luana quickly dismissed the notion, convinced that she had misunderstood. The Duke hastily asks her to serve the meal she has prepared. Luana confidently presented her creation, the meatloaf. She suggested pairing it with the delicious potato salad she had prepared. Surprisingly, the Duke ordered another plate and insisted that she join him at the table. Confused but compliant, Luana took a seat, wondering about the Duke's intentions. The table seemed surprisingly large to her. As the Duke began eating the meatloaf with his fork, Luana contemplated testing it for poison. However, the Duke, devouring the meal without hesitation, asked her to start eating already. Feeling relieved, she took her first bite, delving into a world of flavors. The juiciness of the meat and the softness of the bread transported Luana to a realm of culinary delight. She savored each bite, relishing the fruits of her labor. Luana wondered if the Duke liked her food. When she saw his empty plate, Luana breathed a sigh of relief. Legion quickly finished his meal and inquired about her progress. Luana was amazed at the speed the Duke ate all the food. Curiously, she asked if he liked the food, her anticipation clear. The Duke, wearing a less than impressed expression, admitted that it was satisfactory. Despite his reserved response, Luana found solace in his acknowledgement of her efforts, brightening her mood. However, the Duke's unexpected remark shattered the brief moment of happiness. He casually mentioned that if he were to harm her, her culinary skills would be lost. So he tries to forget what happened last night. Luana bowed her head and thanked him for his generosity. Snapping his fingers, the Duke added that there was one more thing to be done. As unknown hands suddenly grabbed Luana from behind, she instinctively apologized for the events of the previous night. The Duke rose from his seat, silent but with a contemplative expression, while Luana stared at him with a mix of fear and anticipation. Without uttering a word, the Duke commanded someone to take her away. Luana doesn't understand why he looks at her with such disdain. While they were eating the food, he seemed satisfied. The maids take Luana away from the Duke's cabinet. However, to Luana's surprise, the hands that had seized her belonged to the maids. They were escorting her to the bathing area. As the maids washed her, Luana couldn't help but inquire if the Duke would question her further about the misunderstanding. One of the maids replied that she wasn't aware of the Duke's intentions, but he had simply ordered her to dress and bathe Luana. Another maid added that the Duke wouldn't harm someone with whom he spent the night. Luana extended her hand, remarking that it was all a misunderstanding. Suddenly, one of the maids gently took hold of her hand, mentioning that she would tend to her nails. Luana found herself marveling at her reflection in the mirror, adorned in a breathtakingly elegant dress. The Duke approached from behind, stating that she looked presentable now. He added that Luana had appeared unkempt before, explaining his earlier scornful gaze. Overwhelmed by the beauty of the dress, Luana realized she had never worn anything so exquisite in her entire life. Grateful for the unexpected gift, she felt compelled to express her gratitude to the Duke. Turning around to face him, she began to utter the words "thank you." Seeing how elegant and handsome the Duke was, Luana forgot her line. The Duke came closer to her, and asked her what she wanted to say. Caught off guard, Luana murmured, "Nothing," and quickly revised her statement, expressing her thanks. The Duke casually plucked a leaf from her hair, saying that she didn't have to thank him. Their moment was interrupted by a guard who approached. He informing the Duke that Princess had requested their presence in the dungeon. Luana knew that there was only one princess in the dungeon. The first Princess Ingrid. The Duke accompanied Luana as they made their way to the dungeon, where Ingrid questioned the motives behind her confinement. Ingrid accused the Duke of isolating her, and expressed her determination to resist his actions. Some dungeon will not be able to break her faith. Legion didn't mind at all. He wasn't going to take away her faith. If that's all Ingrid wanted to tell him, the Duke asks her not to waste his time anymore. As the Duke and Luana walked away, Ingrid reached out and grabbed a portion of Luana's dress, concerned for her well-being. Luana assured her sister that she was fine, before bidding her a hasty goodbye. Because the Duke shouted for Luana to follow him, she hurriedly caught up with the Duke, leaving Ingrid all alone. Legion reminded Luana that she has no right to act however she wants. Giving her the lantern, the Duke went forward, so they proceeded up the stairs, each carrying a lantern. While walking, Luana seized the opportunity to ask the Duke if the royal family received adequate food in the prison. The Duke's response was chilling. He declared his intent to kill them all, deeming food unnecessary. Tentatively, Luana questioned whether there was any possibility of keeping them alive. The Duke sternly replied that they were not worth preserving. Suddenly, the Duke halted Luana, admonishing her for asking too many questions, and instructing her to cease her inquiries. Luana apologized, understanding her boundaries. They continued their ascent, the Duke leading the way with their lanterns illuminating the path. With hesitation, Luana finally asked the Duke if he was hungry. The air grew tense as they awaited his response, unsure of what it might reveal about his character, and their unfolding relationship.